The Hog Sty is brought to you by TicketClub.com, your one-stop shop for live events nationwide. Whether you're looking for game, theater, or live performance tickets, don't sweat it. TicketClub.com has you covered. So make sure you're going there for all your live entertainment needs, and make sure you're clicking over to them from the banner at the top of the hogsty.com. Hello and welcome to the Hog Sty. You know it's DC's leading source for all things Redskins in the NFL. I'm Sean. Hi. Nice to meet you. Steve Thomas, Alex Zeese, and Jamal Forrest, the crew themselves, are here in the flesh. I'll be awake in about 25 minutes, so guys, come back to me and enjoy the first part of the show.
Sean, be honest. How long ago were you asleep?
Let's see. We're working on... I think I'm up to 16 minutes ago. 16 minutes.
Nice.
At least you got up in time for the show. That makes me happy.
Yes.
I've been trying to think. It's been over a month, I think, since all four of us actually have been on the show together.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
So.
It's been a good minute.
These damn off seasons, man. That's the problem.
Well, that's what it's
good
for.
For us. Look, no one else is as active as us in the off season.
True.
I feel like we still have that going for us.
I was just listening to some Leonard Skinner in preparation for the show.
Nice. And what kind of mood did that get you in?
Well, you said I did IJB, also this morning. So I had like 20 minutes. I thought, you know what? It's time for some Freebird. So I went and found the 15-minute version of Freebird. Listen to that.
There it is.
Yeah, I might be the only one of us who would do that of the four of us on this show.
What? Listen to music before a show? I do it all the time.
Listen to Freebird.
Oh,
Are you
listen to a 15-minute song.
I tend to, if I'm listening to music before the show, I tend to go with like something upbeat, like Tom Petty or something like that.
You're telling me Freebird isn't upbeat?
No, Freebird's upbeat.
That's a pretty good one. Yeah, and I like Skinner, Steve. I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of their catalog or anything, but yeah, I like them just fine.
I know nothing about them.
Oh, they're a classic rock band. Classic.
Yeah.
Rock.
Yeah, classic rock band.
Okay, classic rock.
They're about, of the guys on stage, are probably about 2 of them are original members, and the rest of them are dead from either drug overdoses, airplane accidents, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
That's how you know they were.
What station would they come on, Alex, on the radio?
What station? That's a good one. I mean, all the classic rock stations have kind of...
Does DC 101 still exist?
I'm not even sure if they do classic rock anymore. I think they do. That probably is...
I'll tell you, I only listen to like 3 stations on the radio, but it's all sports, but I'm still, I'm familiar.
I bet you if you just listen to... It's technically Baltimore station, Jack FM. You know that one, Jamal? You should get it down here. It's like 102.7.
I need numbers.
They play everything, so you'll probably pick up some of them there. It's one of those we don't have DJs, we just play music things.
I don't want y'all to think that I'm going to listen to them, but just something where it's like just to think that because I do recognize some things by the stations.
Right.
That's all. So
it's the beauty of it, Jamal, is we don't have to listen to the same thing.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And put me on the spot of what are the non-sports radio stations? I don't know.
Yeah, I just gave it. I gave it a stab.
DC 101. That was there when I lived.
DC 101, I think, is still around, but there have been a lot of station changes in the last year, like 3 or 4 major format flips.
Fellas, I don't know how much time we'll have. This is completely random, but I don't know how much time we'll have. But can we discuss, because we didn't do it at all this entire season except for the first week of Game of Thrones. Can we discuss this before we break?
I think so. I think we need to.
The important thing is that when the show comes out, the finale will have already happened. And so what I would like to propose here is that we predict on the record, on recording, what we think is going to happen at the end.
Who's going to die? Basically.
You can do that.
So, since that was my idea.
Hey, we can do that.
Okay, I'll start since it was mine, since I put everybody else on the spot.
We're gonna put it at the end,
or
we're gonna
right now.
Oh, we're gonna do it right now. Okay, let's go ahead.
All right, that's
go for it.
It's gonna piss off a bunch of people who seem to hate that we talk Game of Thrones.
So look,
well, that's exactly why.
So look, if anybody has an issue with Game of Thrones, you can. This is a podcast. Go ahead and skip past this and get to the
go for like 5-10 minutes.
Okay, so for the record, we are recording this on Saturday morning, and so none of us have seen the show. I'm going to predict that I think the ending of this thing is going to be that Daenerys dies one way or another. Whether it be John kills her, Arya kills her, she dies in a tragic, dragon accident. Something's going to happen. She's going to die.
Dragon accident.
Yeah. And I think Tyrion Lannister's going to die one way. I think she's going to kill him. And
wasted potential.
Yeah, and I think somehow Jon Snow is either going to die or go away, but he's not going to end up being the king, and it's going to be somebody completely out of left field who's going to be the new king or queen.
I like that take.
That's my
prediction. I can see where you're coming from with that.
I'll go next. So I kind of agree with the last part of what Steve said. I don't think Jon is going to be on the Iron Throne. I do think, because one of the things that's been bothering me this entire time is I think he and Bran served their purpose in essentially fighting the Night King and understanding who Jon truly was. But I mean, Jon hasn't done anything with that information at all. Like, his whole purpose, he thought, was uniting people and trying to get everybody to come together for the common purpose, which is to defeat the dead, and they were able to do that. Now he's, essentially bent the knee to his queen, and the only people that can really, defeat the queen at this point, because he's served his loyalty, I don't think he's going to break it, is somebody else coming in to try and defend him or try and kill the queen themselves, because he's not going to do it. He's probably going to need the help from somebody. But even still, I don't think he's going to take it. I think he'll either die trying to, die trying to do something, but he may be trying to leave at the same time. Like, maybe dies trying to leave away, trying to leave from the queen instead of trying to kill her. I don't know, but I think Jon doesn't stay there, and I think Dany does die somehow. I just don't know who kills her.
Yeah, you can't expect. They're not exactly setting her up for success here, judging from last week's episode.
Genocidal maniac cannot live.
Yeah,
actually,
I don't.
I was thinking too. I'll be quick with this one. The way Game of Thrones been playing out like this entire time, I wouldn't even be surprised if somebody doesn't kill her. Like, they may end up like, she does deserve to die at this point. Like, the way they painted her as the Mad Queen, but I wouldn't be surprised if nobody's successful in this version.
Yeah, Steve, you say a genocidal maniac can't live, but I mean, we're talking medieval history here. I mean, that's kind of all of medieval history is genocidal people living.
Become the Genghis Khan of Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
based on
and Genghis Khan died of old age in a harem full of 200 women. So
it just would not be a good story if you let someone who murdered hundreds of thousands of people live, and that'd just be a terrible.
I agree, but it wouldn't surprise me.
You can predict something different.
Yeah.
I mean, feel free.
Alex, do you want to venture a prediction?
I mean, part of me really thinks that is going to be how it ends, is that Daenerys gets the throne, she keeps the throne, Jon goes into exile in the north somewhere, lives with the wildlings, because that's where he's actually happy, and I think Tyrion... I think if Tyrion's not running for his life, or like at the very moment of the end of the last episode, like, because he should be. He's failed miserably as Hand, and there's no reason for her to let him live. So
Tyrion ain't got no chance if he's actually running on foot.
He's not running very fast.
He doesn't stand a chance.
No. But I think he'll go into exile somewhere.
But I do think, because Dany set him up. Like, she sat there and told that man where his brother was. And eventually they're going to realize that the brother is no longer chained up in wherever it is that they kept him. And it'll eventually trace back to Tyrion. So I think they need to, if they're going to do anything right, one of the few things that needs to be included, that the queen finds out that, or that this situation takes place where the queen finds out that he actually betrayed her again. And something a conclusion needs to happen between them two.
I agree. I think there's no way that he'll stay her subject or loyal servant at this point.
No, and also he's horrified about what she did.
Yeah, and rightly so, because he was trying to avoid that with everything he had, and when he thought he had it done, she betrayed him. So
Bronn, Tyrion needs to go to Bronn and let them rule together in Highgarden.
Yeah, that would not be a bad plan, but she would just destroy him. I think he goes across the sea back to the Free Cities or something like that. But yeah, I mean, the fairy tale ending would be John has to become king because Danny's now insane, right? That's the fairy tale ending.
And that's not going to happen.
No. So we have to accept that's not going to happen.
I don't think John or Arya are candidates for it because I don't think they'd accept it.
What about Sansa? She might wild card in.
I think that's one option. I think Bran is your left field. Gendry's still kicking around. Those are kind of like your three, I feel like, leading candidates. I don't see Arya or John. I don't see Daenerys.
That would be crazy.
Yeah,
if
listen,
Gendry
I mean,
ends up doing it.
football, but
it's possible.
Bran is the worst character on the show.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't do much with him.
They didn't do much with him. He doesn't do anything. He's the greatest military intelligence asset in the history of the world, and he did absolutely nothing and said absolutely nothing. So, Bran, if anybody needs to run or roll away, in his case, it's Bran. I don't like it.
Or at least serve a purpose in this final episode because he's done absolutely nothing.
I was happy that he warged into Ravens during the Battle of Winterfell.
Right. And did nothing with it.
Did nothing with the information, but sat there. So
I think he was that horse at the end of the last episode that Arya.
Oh, you think he's the horse?
Interpretation of it. I was like, oh, he's the horse. That was his whole role in the battle. Good job, Bran.
She didn't need to be there in the first place. So.
No.
Yeah.
Although, can we just say the fight between the Hound and the Mountain?
Good stuff.
Oh yeah. It was
great fight
incredible.
scene.
Man, right through the eye.
It was funny too. I loved how Clyburn died.
Yeah. Frankenstein's mom.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's do it, shall we? Shall we, Steve? I know you're ready to move on. Okay. Let's do it then. So, we got a couple news pieces. Yep. We got a poll, and then we've got our position group breakdowns to begin. Ooh, fun. So, do we want to talk about these news pieces first?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Montae Nicholson is in the news. His criminal case, which is in Loudoun County, was dismissed by the prosecutors. He had an assault charge, and he had a public intoxication charge. Those are now gone, and so he's off the hook criminally. Doesn't necessarily mean he's off the hook with the NFL. They could still find that he violated the personal conduct policy.
Right.
The NFL hasn't said one way or another. Either way, I can't imagine that even if they do discipline him, it's going to be anything all that serious, considering the circumstances and considering the criminal case is gone. So if he gets a fine or something or a suspension, I would assume it'd be short, if anything.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised it was completely dropped given the video that was out there.
Yeah, but, a lot of times in these cases, these defendants who have money will settle with their accuser, and the accuser will mysteriously not want to testify, and then once you don't have that, you lose evidence. Don't be surprised if that's
right. Well, and also, it was a bar fight. You can't really say who's completely at fault,
Certainly not without a witness willing to testify.
Right. So, I'm happy for the team in that perspective because I think Nicholson's still a decent safety, so it means we have a second safety on the roster that can start.
That's damn at least. I mean, it's not Troy Apke.
Right. Or Everett can probably play for one game if there's a one-game suspension.
Anybody's better than Apke. I mean, I think he's going to be a bust of a draft pick.
Well, I think all he'll do is play special teams. That's all you really draft him for.
Is that, now that I'm glad Monte's off the hook, but the problem is Monte's off the hook.
Yeah.
He's not exactly Sean Taylor back there. The fact that Montae Nicholson's going to play is better than not having a free safety lineup.
Right.
But I'm not sure how much better it is.
Well, I mean, if you went back to last season, was Clinton Dix any more useful at free safety than Montae Nicholson?
He got better by the end of the season. He was getting better.
Dix,
it took him a while to kind of get ingrained into the Redskins system.
I just feel like there are better free safeties out there, but it's not the worst option. You can go 16 games with Montae Nicholson and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
I think with Montae, it was a little bit of a wash. It's kind of rough to necessarily to think that. I mean, I obviously they wanted a premier safety back there when they traded for. They thought that he can be that type of guy. Then take into account the fact that it'll take him some time to get adjusted to the defense, and then on top of that, they only had him for half a year, and he left in the offseason. But to do that to Montae, I'm not necessarily saying Montae is the greatest safety or a great safety, but to do that to Montae actually stunts him. But at the same time, who knows? They did kind of change the schemes up from 2017 to 2018 on the back end. So it's kind of hard to necessarily say, he's a terrible player, or it's more so that he's inconsistent and he has to prove himself this year, because it's going to be a different once again a third scheme that's going to be different for Montae, and he's in his third year, so it's rough, but it's just something.
It's going to be interesting to see how he's used differently with Collins now being kind of more an up in the box safety, whereas I think when you had him playing with Swearinger was more of a he didn't go up and stop the run nearly as much as Collins will.
In 2017 they let Montae play free. He didn't have to worry about playing at the line of scrimmage, and then at times last year they were. I remember the word being like.
They love doing that. It's the worst idea in safeties.
Yeah, and it kind of hurt Montae, as opposed to him just playing strictly in that free role and letting DJ do what he do at the box, and sometimes occasionally playing outside in space. So it kind of hurt.
Landon Collins is an in-the-box safety himself, and I think, truth be told, Montae is probably the best free safety candidate we have. So. He's not as fast as Troy Apke, but Apke needs a ton of work, obviously. So, to sort of maximize everybody's talents, I think, if they're playing cover 2, this isn't an issue. But if they're playing cover 3, I think Montae needs to be the free safety, because Collins is definitely the in-the-box guy. So, that's how it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how effective it is. We'll see.
Well, and we have 4 guys really that'll almost all sure be on this team at safety. And I think it's clear Apke's just a speed guy, and Everett's more of your hard hitter. So Everett's probably backing up Collins, if anybody, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
So anyway, point is Montae's.
Well, what's going on with Everett though? Like nobody. I'm not necessarily. I don't think he's I can't say I don't think anything, because I don't know. We only see him in preseason and special teams in the regular season. But what is his purpose? Is he going to get an opportunity to prove that he's capable of playing significant
if
time
the Redskins would be smart, the best thing to do would put Everett and Montae in a direct competition for the starting free safety slot.
I agree.
Whoever wins. I definitely think that would give Everett a shot.
Everett's got the heart that Montae probably hasn't shown yet in terms of play. Let's put it that way.
I don't know.
He's a healthy option. I know that much, and that's one of the things that hurts Montae, is because he can't.
And we know they love him on the special teams unit, which always counts for something. Yeah, that always locks you up a spot.
Yeah, they drafted some special teams guys this year.
That's true.
So if Montae is a starting free safety, I don't think he's going to be playing teams, much.
No. I was talking about if Deshazier or Everett.
Oh, Everett. Yeah.
Everett.
But yeah, hopefully Montae just can stay out of One Loudon, because
stay out of trouble.
Yeah. Let's keep everybody out of One Loudon, because it doesn't seem like anything good happens to Redskins players there.
No, it really doesn't. You're right, exactly right.
It's a good point. All right, fair enough. Anything else we want to say about that before moving on?
No. That's about it.
All right, let's talk about my man Josh Doctson then.
Okay, so the Redskins, and we're kind of going back a week with this.
Yeah, we forgot to cover it, I think.
Yeah. The Redskins informed Josh Doctson that they were not going to pick up his 5th-year option. To that I say hallelujah.
No.
Listen, he's not lived up to it. What can you say?
No, not at all.
That doesn't mean he's terrible. He was the leading wide receiver last year.
Yeah, but he put up number 3 caliber numbers.
Yeah, exactly.
Bad number 3s.
So personally, I'm glad they didn't pick it up. He's not worth it. Good riddance.
Yep. I don't think we need to harp on it, because it is a week or two old, this news that they didn't pick him up.
Right.
But I think it was 9 days ago or something like that.
Good to cover it, at least.
Yeah. Good luck wherever else you go, Josh Doctson. That's all I'll say.
I think, Scott McGowan, if you're out there listening, it's time to give it up. I think he's going to die on the, Josh Doctson, Matt Jones bandwagon.
Well, no, he jumped off the Matt Jones bandwagon last interview. I heard it with him.
did he finally?
Yeah.
Because for a while, Matt Jones was the most talented running back who's ever.
I think he said it was his worst draft pick with the Redskins.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, Scott McLuhan's legacy.
What a turnaround.
Every time I think more about it, his legacy goes down farther with me.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. Last year, Matt Jones has signed with the Eagles, and this is it's so funny because I remember watching the Eagles preseason game. I was watching the Eagles preseason game, and at the time, I didn't know. I don't know if I had my TV on mute. I don't know anything. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention. But I just seen these running backs, this running back making these big plays. For 2 seconds, he made a couple good plays. I shouldn't say big plays. But then, he got the ball in one game, he had fumbled twice. And I didn't know who it was. I still didn't know who it was. And then on the second fumble, I found out, because I recognized by the number, I was like, he fumbled again. And turned out it was Matt Jones. I was like incredible because I couldn't believe who it was, and the fact that he's still out here, he has another chance, and he's still fumbling 3 or 4 years later. I couldn't believe it.
That's Matt Jones, and that's big reason why he's not here.
Yeah. And I think Samaje Perine will be next on that. Hey, we drafted this guy and it did not work.
Yeah, he needs to polish up his resume too.
Yeah. Or, the XFL is going to be hiring.
He'll have those. That too. He'll have his opportunities in the preseason to try and put that resume out there, but I don't think he's lasting any longer than
He needs to put himself on LinkedIn, start looking on Monster.com, send his resume to an expert.
LinkedIn, I get more people asking me, hey, you want a job on LinkedIn now these days? I don't know what's going on.
The times have changed. Yeah. You get jobs to come to you now via LinkedIn. So listen up, Samaje.
Yep.
Be ready.
It's brutal out there, though. All right, cool. So long, Doxson. Right on. Let's go to our poll then.
Okay.
And that's going to be a fun one. I can already tell.
Yeah. Okay. So let's set this up. Earlier this week, Eric Bickle with the Sports Junkies mentioned the fact that he did not like that Dwayne Haskins bought a Bentley.
Right.
Okay, and because Dwayne Haskins bought a Bentley, he was talking about buying his mom one, also. And he just obviously signed his contract with the Redskins, $14 million guaranteed, $8 million signing bonus, and some of that may have been prorated, but the point is he just, he didn't have millions, and now he has millions of dollars. So Bickle from the Junkies says he doesn't like this, says that Haskins hasn't earned anything, hasn't earned.
He called it a red flag, is what he called it.
Yeah, and he didn't really have the right to be flashy, and it's a red red character flag. And so I thought that was ridiculous, and so I put a comment out about it, and said, why don't we just let this guy actually get through minicamp before we start criticizing his automotive choices. And so I thought, what?
But where's the fun in that?
Let's just do a poll and see how the voting public feels about what Eric Bickle said.
Right.
And so the poll question was, do you have a problem with Dwayne Haskins buying a Bentley?
Right.
So there's the question. So let's have everybody's thoughts. I think we all know how the public felt about it, and we'll get to the percentages here.
Yeah, it's almost not worth even asking public.
I'll tell you what, it's the poll, the results. 89% said no, they don't have a problem. 11% said yes, and we had about 10 or so people write in to say they hit yes instead of no. So the real result was about, because apparently you can't read. So the real percentage was about 90, 10%.
Right. Well, it's people literally said because you put no first, they got confused.
Yeah.
Florida voters, man. That's what it is. It's Florida voters.
It must be. So what do we all think about? What's everybody's opinion about this?
He can buy what he wants, but a Bentley is for $250,000. It's an ugly freaking car. That's my opinion on it.
So Alex has a complaint along style.
Yes, I think if you spend $250,000 on a car, it should be getting you laid every time you take it out for a drive, and a Bentley won't do that.
Haskins really needs that.
No, probably not.
Yeah, for that.
But it looks like a car my grandfather would have bought back in the '80s. To me.
Listen, I mean, it's a fancy luxury car. Whatever he wants to do.
Yeah, fine. Well, no, he bought the SUV version, not the luxury car version.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
For me, I don't really care. The only thing I have about this is, I think that, and before people get confused, it's not even a race side that I'm going down. It's more so public figures in general, and having them be held accountable for the ignorant things that they say. And I just don't think that the guy EB. I listen to the radio show a lot because, like I said, I don't listen to when we was talking about radio stations earlier. I only listen to sports channels, so by default, I listen to them. But some of the things that they say are just it's lazy and it's ignorant. And sometimes they just don't get held accountable for the things like that. He says it's a red flag, but has no basis or has no purpose for it being a red flag, and he didn't even listen to or understood why Dwayne was doing it. If he wants to do it with his money, cool, let him do it. Who cares what he does with his money? But I mean, that's what happens when you have access to social media nowadays. You have people in your business, especially a guy like Dwayne Haskins. They understand what you're doing with your money, especially if you make a big purchase like that. And sometimes these people say stupid things, and it just goes by the wayside, and they get popularity or get recognized for saying it, and it's just stupid.
Sean, opinions?
I'm kind of like Jamal. I don't care. He can do whatever he wants with his money. I completely agree with that. I mean, it's a terrible personal finance decision. This is
Sean with the economic background.
Yeah, I mean, becoming a football player and making millions of dollars, that's the cosmic lottery right there. It doesn't come around for many people. It doesn't last very long. You should probably hold on to that money as much as you want, but I can't fault the kid for spending his money on nice stuff. He's young. He's got the money. I can't really criticize that. If it were me and I was his financial advisor, I might say something different. But I'm not.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you don't expect a guy to drive a beat-up Honda. I wouldn't either. Yeah. I would have bought a car. I don't know if I would have bought a Bentley, but that's not the point. I mean, it's his money. It's his life. Do whatever the heck you want. Now, listen, I did not open this up to comments for the poll, and I didn't for a specific reason that I do want to talk about here. Here it is. The first tweet I put out, which said, why don't we let him
do what he wants
before we start criticizing his automotive choices? Somebody responded and went down the road that I didn't like.
Oh, I seen that. Yeah, I blocked that person.
And I don't usually call out the dummies by name, but I'm going to call him out by name. And he was at Gary L. Straw.
Yeah.
Who's actually an attorney in Virginia. And Gary L. Straw's position was.
No, I think he had. Yeah, when I talk about EB, I don't think he had the racial lines behind that.
But this Gary Straw guy, you're a racist, okay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to tell you that, and this is coming from a guy who is on the conservative side, and I try not to see race and stuff. But Gary L. Straw, you're a racist, and so what he said was. This is what rappers do. Do you really want Dwayne Haskins to be a rapper? Words to that effect. And what you don't see what you're not getting about that, Gary, is that your statement is implicitly saying that Dwayne Haskins making a lifestyle choice that you don't agree with, it's because he's black. And in his view, black folks who are rappers look a certain way and do certain things that you don't like and you don't think much of, and so you're using a racial element.
Coding is what I would call that language. Racial. Yeah. It's racist coding.
It's racial coding. Yeah, it's racist coding. That's a good way to put it. And you're viewing it along racial lines. What you said was extremely offensive.
Yeah.
And I think it shows your ignorance. And it shows that you're just a flat-out racist. And I have learned, we're using our Twitter to stop arguing with dummies,
Sure.
Because I don't do like I used to. And I also knew that the public would call him out.
Yeah, and they did.
And so everybody called him out. White, black,
yeah.
Yellow, purple, everybody called him out. So I wanted to call him out on this show and let you know that we did see what you said. I did not. The reason I didn't open up the poll to comments was to avoid more stupidity like that.
Right.
But Gary L. Straw, you're a racist. Please stop following us and please stop listening.
Yes. Hey, Gary, go F yourself. That's my addendum to that.
Yeah.
And, I did see some people were claiming that they thought that the initial comment that Bickle made was somehow kind of racist. I don't think so. I've said this before. I don't think you make it in this kind of and we're not even in that level, but you don't make it to that level with in sports talk with racist feelings, because how many players are African American in every sport,
Yeah.
or whatever minority group?
Yeah, I mean, especially nowadays, it's kind of hard. Like I still remember the dude from Rutgers who was talking about Nappy.
Nappy, who was that?
Nappy had and that was like 10 years.
It was more
ago,
than that. I was in high school.
Or something like. Yeah, like you make those type of comments, and around with social media, like just starting up and just getting going and things like that. That's what that thing. You cannot make it. You cannot survive out here. And I'm not about to defend EB off of it. Like,
it was a stupid comment.
Ignorant,
yes.
But at the same time, I listened long enough to know. They do say questionable things. I just don't know if it was on the side of like being as like that guy that y'all mentioned on Twitter. They don't compare.
Yeah, I mean, listen. What Gary Straw was implying is that it's bad to be a black rapper, and somehow because they may have a different lifestyle than you and look differently than you and be flashier than you are, somehow that's wrong or bad or worse, less, which is what he was implying. That is something we don't need in this world, and it's definitely not something we need on our Twitter feed, and that's why I didn't want anybody else to comment on the poll.
Fair enough. And, again.
Could see it.
Can we, I think that's, we don't need to call attention to him anymore.
Yeah, we said enough of it.
Yeah.
I don't want to get
So I have one more question, just to kind of spin this back to a little bit of fun. All right, guys, you get that money, what car are you buying?
That is a good question.
Okay, I wouldn't buy a Bentley.
No.
I don't think that's really not my style, like flashy, that kind of out there is not really my thing. If you'd asked me years ago, it might have been like a Ferrari or something.
Sure. When you were a younger man?
Yeah, but I think I'd probably just get a nice luxury. I'd probably get like a sort of understated Mercedes, maybe.
Okay.
That's probably what I would do.
To be honest with you, I would just go and get the most souped up Challenger out there. Like stick to what I know, or maybe if anything, if I don't get the Challenger, like the Hellcat, I may just do like a throwback, like a '68 Camaro or 67, I think, or 68 Challengers, whatever it is back there, Dodge or Camaro, one of those that I used to love when I was a kid. So. I'll probably just soup it up and make sure I fix everything that needs to be fixed and get in a new engine and all that stuff. So,
yep, '69 Charger, sink a ton of money in.
Nice.
You can buy them for like $30,000 to $50,000. They're not expensive cars, but you'd want to put a ton of work into it.
I'm kind of I'm in that vein, but not that old. I'm going to go with my childhood dream car, which was a Prowler. That would be
okay.
Yeah.
So that's what you'd get.
Yeah, it's like $20,000 if you buy them now because they're all like 15 years old.
Or we could just not get the car and just never work again. That would be
right. Well,
that sounds even
well, you
better.
have to work.
Yeah, technically you have to play football to get the money, so you're working.
Oh, I thought the hypothetical was just if we had the money. I didn't know I had
just
the
you
money.
win the lottery kind of thing. No.
Would you be the guy that kept the beat up Honda and just not buy a car and put it all into savings?
Yeah, I live in Boulder. Nobody drives here anyway. Everyone's on their bike. I'd just look weird. I'd get dirty looks.
What y'all got snowmobiles out there?
Yeah.
Just riding everywhere.
Yeah, here it's not too bad. It's just an outdoorsy town. So
I just think when you sign a contract that is $14 million guaranteed, you can afford to buy yourself a nice car and still save most of the money.
Sure.
I think you can do both.
Yeah.
I mean, I would put more money into the house than the car. That's just me because return on investment stuff.
Well, we know Dwayne is actually living with Terry McLaurin, so they're obviously renting an apartment or something.
Oh, I actually didn't know that. I assumed that he bought a place.
He said in interviews that he and Terry were roommates.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wonder which one's the clean one and which one's the slob. There's one in each.
I think both of them are probably pretty clean. They didn't look like either one of them looked like the slob types to me.
Probably mainly because they don't be in the house that much, I would imagine.
That definitely helps.
Well...
So by default, it's pretty clean.
I mean, I would assume they're both at the park so much that there's no time to mess up the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no time to clean it.
That's true. Well, that's what maids are for.
All right. So there's our card discussion.
Yes.
Beautiful. Should we talk about position groups?
Yes.
Get into it?
Shall.
All right, let's do some corner discussion.
Okay. First of all, this is start our annual position group breakdown.
Yay!
kind of a hashtag content sort of a deal, but this is the time that every week we will go through and review, now that the roster is more or less set, and yes, there's going to be a few changes on the periphery, but, this is where we're going to talk about what we can expect in the 2019 season with at each position group. So we're going to start with corner. The reason we started with corner is that our buddy Josh Norman has been in the news this week. Number one, he was making fun of the Giants, which is always fun.
Right.
And then the substantive question raised is whether the Redskins should cut him or not. This is like media and fan-driven, not team-driven, because I think the team just isn't going to cut him.
No. Realistically, no.
Realistically. So the question is whether they should or not. And I'll just say Norman is about to enter year 4 of a 5-year contract. His contract expires in 2020. He has a cap hit this year of $14.5 million.
Right.
And so it's listen, I mean, it's a big number.
Well, we're past the worst part of his contract, right? Like last year was the peak year where he hit 20 or something.
Yeah, I mean, his dead cap's only $6 million.
Right.
And next year his cap hit goes up to $15.5 million, but his dead cap is $3 million. So he's a significant savings next year. In terms of his production, I mean, if you want to look at it objectively, his numbers have all peaked with the Redskins since the Carolina Panthers. He's averaging mid to high 60s in tackles every year, which he never did with Carolina except his one rookie year. He's had 6 interceptions, which I got to be honest, I'm a bit disappointed with that.
Yeah, if you're getting paid, and I think he's the 5th highest paid corner in the league right now, you want him to be in the 4+ interceptions a year range, I'd imagine.
Go ahead, Jamal.
No, I was just going to say, because I stopped myself because I know you wasn't done yet, but I was just going to mention I'm disappointed in interceptions too, and also I have an opinion on Norman, but also I just wanted to give him some credit because he does force a lot of fumbles. I don't know how many we recover, but he is there to make a few plays here and there throughout the season, but that's all. I didn't know if you
numbers actually.
Yeah, there you go.
He's had 7 forced fumbles in his time here. So that's 2 in 2016, 2 in 17, and then 3 last year. So yeah, he's had a share of turnovers. Look, I mean, he's not by NFL corner standards. He's not overly athletic. He's running the 40 in the 4.6 range.
Right. He's not what we would call a shutdown corner.
No, I mean, he's paid like a shutdown corner, and that's kind of the problem. I mean, overly athletic guys like Odell Beckham sometimes get the better of him. But I also say this about Norman. I think those kind of battles, he's a competitive dude. And I think those kind of battles tend to bring the best out of him. He always did fairly well when he has a big-time matchups like that.
Yeah.
I think he's better in the zone nowadays than man, and he can sort of exhibit his savviness, when he's in zone coverage. But again, that having been said, when he's got Odell Beckham one-on-one, those type of matchups, he tends to do fairly well. I mean, he's worth having on the team. It's just strictly a financial thing. I think the team expected Pro Bowl, All-Pro corner, and they didn't get that. And yet he's being paid like that. But for right now, he's by far and away, I think, the best corner. Hopefully some of these young guys will step up, but right now today he's still cornerback number 1 in my view.
No, I think there's no question that he's our top corner. I think most people, I think we would all agree he's probably getting paid more than he's, bringing to the table at this point. But part of this has always been, when he came from Carolina, they played a zone-heavy defense with their, secondary. And he's asked to do a lot more man-on-man here. And maybe that it's a not using him right situation. I wonder if maybe next year, this season, they do a lot more cover 3 now that you have Collins who can kind of roam the mid-center of the field. Maybe that'll help him.
I think his issue is more so what he does that's probably not him. Is more so following players across the field instead of staying true to the side that he's most comfortable on. And I think that's what really hurts him. I just wanted to point out, it's kind of crazy because when we signed Norman in 2016, think about the bigger name guys that we have on our team or that developed in the fan base. Recently, for recency, I'll go like London Fletcher, D'Angelo Hall, Santana Moss, Clem Portis too. Like, these guys became staples for long periods of time in the Redskins community and the Redskins franchise. And you have Norman going into his 4th year as a Redskin, and it's so many mixed emotions. I don't know why that even happened, but there's so many mixed emotions on Norman himself, and it's like, that's not what you usually expect from a guy to his caliber going into his 4th year as a Redskin. Like, there's no overwhelming sense of that's our guy for this guy. So it's kind of weird in that sense, thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't endeared himself to the fan base for some reason. Part of it is, I think a lot of people think he's not quite as dedicated to football as some others. I think people think he's kind of Hollywood.
Yeah.
He was on Dancing with the Stars, and that didn't help him with the fan base at all. And so I think for some people out there, he just didn't touch the fan base. Like those other guys you're talking about, for whatever reason. And the other thing is, frankly, he hadn't made any Pro Bowls.
Right.
Oh, shoot, you're right.
If he'd made a couple Pro Bowls, that would have been a different story. But I think the opinion, generally speaking, is that he has talent. He's a good corner, but he's underwhelmed in relation to the expectations when he came. And I think you throw that in and add the Hollywood part of it to it, and I think that's probably why.
Although it sounds like that's not. It sounds like that's not fair, though, Steve, because you're saying his statistics at least have peaked here, right?
I didn't say it was fair. I'm saying it is.
Yeah, no, I know.
I don't think he's lived up to his contract. I do think when he was the highest paid corner in football there when he signed the contract.
Right. You need to lead the league in something if you're the highest paid guy.
Make an all-pro team.
Right.
I think he has underwhelmed, and he has underperformed his contract. I just don't think he stinks. I think he's a good corner. I think they need him. The Redskins aren't the type of team that they're not the Patriots. They don't cut talent.
Right.
Very often.
They can't.
And so that's not going to happen. No, they can't afford to. They do need him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just can't believe you guys out there who want to cut him. They think we're going to trot Danny Johnson out there, especially considering all the injuries we've had, in the secondary. So, next year may be a different story. We'll see how people develop. But for right now, Josh Norman's our guy.
Yeah.
You may not like it, but
they're all in for Jimmy Moreland.
Well, they are. There is a Jimmy Moreland fan base out there that I'm seeing brewing on social media.
So,
my God.
Yeah, and so I'll actually point to that real quick. I think it was Fred Smoot who probably made the point of this, and I just want to agree with him. Now, I do agree with Steve, too, that I think Josh Norman is a good corner. Because of his contract, we kind of undervalue him because, I think he's not living up to the contract myself, but in the sense of analyzing him himself, he's a good corner. But Fred Smoot made the point that, you draft these guys, when you draft them, you expect them to contribute to your team. Doesn't matter what round they're drafted in. A guy like Jimmy Moreland last year you had Adonis, who was supplemental, but then you also had
Fabian.
Fabian.
And Stroman.
In these mid-round, later round, Stroman, that's the guy I was thinking of. You have these mid to late round picks. You do expect them to eventually contribute and actually play significant roles on your defense. So if they were to make the move of cutting Norman, which I don't think they should, if they were to make that move for cutting Norman, these guys are going to have to be ready to play eventually. Like, they got to go through the trials and tribulations, the same situation we expect Dwayne Haskins to go through. That talk of him starting week 1. These are guys that they draft. They if they get you as a draft pick, they invested heavily into you, and they want to put their time in to make sure that you're ready, but you're also being able to develop and grow as a player. So yeah, if Jimmy Moreland was to play, then I'd be all for it.
I think if you gave the team truth serum, they would tell you that Fabian Moreau was drafted to be Josh Norman's eventual replacement.
Mm-hmm.
Fabian is a guy from the big-time program. He was projected first-round talent, but for his torn pectoral muscle, dropped in the draft of the 3rd round. He kind of has it all in terms of resume, measurables, all that stuff.
And
I think the team
better suited to play the outside, even though they've had him play slot. Yeah,
out of necessity because they didn't have anybody to play slot. So I think Fabian is probably the guy that they hope is going to replace him, in a couple years or maybe next year. I mean, Fabian has kind of underwhelmed himself a little bit, I think, in terms of expectations. But, I mean, the dude's running a sub 4.5 40. He played 5 years at UCLA. He's got...
Oh, no, he ran a 4.3. I think Fabian did.
I said sub 4.4 is what I tried to... Is that not what I said?
No, you said sub 4.5.
Diplomatic.
Okay, I meant sub 4.4.
Yeah.
He ran a 4.3 something 40. He's got it all. He's just, with him, it's injuries.
Yeah.
He broke his foot. He tore his pec. All of that. So I liked Fabian in college. I still like him. I think Fabian and Quentin Dunbar may be the future of this team in terms of corners, starting corners.
At least you're 1-2 on the outside, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. I still hope that we can see some more development from Fabian Moreau because he did underwhelm playing the slot last year. I don't think he's suited for it at all. You have to be able to be quick and go either inside or outside depending on what your guy does, and that's different.
He's quick, though. He's quick.
He is quick, but
his problem is he's never played it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and I think it's a mindset thing. Whereas the sidelines there if you're on the edge. So, hopefully this year you see him used more on the outside. Maybe, I don't know. I would actually think that Norman's probably the better corner to play inside between those two.
Somebody else said that too. I think it was actually Fred.
Oh, was it Fred? Okay.
Yeah, he thinks that. I mean, he has the most experience, but that's probably a position where he's comfortable playing.
We've seen that done before. I think D Hall did that towards the end of his career, right? Where he would play the outside, but then go inside and nickel.
Moved him to safety, there.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is, I think you have to have. This is probably what the team is thinking. You have to have a corner, an experienced, veteran, talented corner who can match up with these big-time number one receivers who are, for the most part, outside receivers.
Right.
The slot guys, yes, you have to have a talented corner to play slot, but I think Norman's role is to play the Antonio Browns.
Right, Deshaun Jackson, because we'll have to face him again, yeah.
Yeah, and Deshaun is a Z. He's on the outside. I think that's what they have to have Josh playing for now, because they don't really have anybody who has the moxie, for lack of a better term, to kind of stand up to those big-time number one receivers. The Julio Joneses of the world.
Yeah.
You can't throw, Greg Stroman against Julio Jones. It would go horribly wrong.
Right.
Whereas Josh Norman, you kind of expect him to be able to hang in a situation
right. But
like that.
Let's be honest. When you're talking about a good Z like Jackson, Moreau's got athletically probably a better matchup versus someone with that speed.
Moreau is a guy who the team expects to develop into that.
Yeah.
I think they drafted Moreau to be that because a lot of people thought Moreau was first-round talent, but for his injury.
Right.
So they definitely, I think, see Moreau in that role for sure.
And
it's just going to take him all to get there.
Yeah.
What happened with Moreau last year?
No,
he
nothing
got hurt
happened.
Right at the very end.
He played in 16 games, started 10.
He got all games? Wow.
Yeah, started 10.
Right, because he started for Dunbar when he got hurt, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he had one interception, 58 tackles last year. So he was there.
Yeah,
he was definitely active. Okay, yeah. Well, I didn't realize it was 16 full games. I thought he got. For some reason, I thought he had a leg thing.
No, I think that you're thinking of Dunbar, who had the leg thing. I think
Dunbar.
Yeah, he had a nerve issue in the leg, right? Is that something like a nerve in his shin or something?
The team listed it as a shin injury forever, and that's.
And then said it was nerve damage, and I don't know if your shin has nerves. So
that's why I remember that. I remember talking about that, being like,
well, the shin is a bone,
right?
So no, you don't have nerves in your bones,
right?
Correct.
Right. I'm not a doctor.
Anyway, I'm not a doctor, but we can play one on a podcast,
right?
There you go.
But anyway, he should be healthy. So
yeah. Well, Dunbar. I mean, we can talk about Dunbar because the team likes him. The thing about Dunbar is he's big, he's athletic.
Yeah.
He's very, very smart, apparently, in terms of football smarts. That's why they originally converted him to corner in the first place. But he's 6'2", about 200 pounds. I mean, he's big and he's athletic. He ran a 4.4 40. My problem with Quentin is just what you just said, Alex. I mean, he's got a nerve problem. Nerve problems have ended careers, ended Kaishan Jarrett's career.
Yeah.
I just don't know what is going on with him and his health.
If he's healthy, there are times where he's our best corner. We've seen that in the last 2 years. That if you put him and Norman head to head, Dunbar outplays him when healthy. I'm a big Dunbar fan, so
I know you are.
Yeah, I like Dunbar too.
Yeah, I like him. What can you say? I like him. We just have to hope the man's healthy.
Yeah, and he flies under the radar a lot, which I also like because that means you can re-sign him for cheap.
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of contract, let's talk about that. I mean, Dunbar is in year 2 of a 3-year contract, $10.5 million total value. So his cap hit this year is $4.1 million. He's got a $2 million dead cap. Yep. I mean, that's not going to come into play, for him. His cap hit next year is $4.5 million. So, I mean, that's a good deal for a quality starting corner as long as he can see the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, he needs to play for more than half the.
Yeah,
I mean, he needs to have recover from whatever horrible nerve injury he has. More importantly, because I mean, when he came back, remember he played in 7 games last year, and he came back from this for
right, and he was hobbling quite a bit.
I think the first one was the Dallas game.
Yeah, and he looked terrible, and he was clearly not himself. So you just have to wonder, how serious this nerve stuff really is. It's not just a shin injury, people. If you were under that impression.
Yeah, well, and not only is it not just a shin injury, but it rotated around his leg and became a hamstring issue later. And, yeah, I don't know. He's not a guy to pin any long-term hopes on yet, unless he can show that he's got a little more longevity, I would say. But, yeah, I mean, you like some of the things you see from him.
Yeah.
But it's just not enough.
Now, according to, and I Googled just to, figure it out, but according to the Redskins on their website, he's fully healthy finally from the nerve injury. So.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Redskins.
Yeah.
I don't trust your injury reports as far as I can throw them.
I agree, but that's the only thing I could find in a quick Google search.
They also said he had a shin injury.
Right.
So.
Well, we know this team has no idea how to diagnose any injury, especially if it's a leg injury.
Hey, I mean, listen, I'm not going to say who it is. I'll tell you guys afterwards. I might have told you this
You've
before.
told us.
But, okay, yeah, there is a player out there who told me personally that, retired player, that the Redskins misdiagnosed him.
Yeah.
And lied to him. That's what this player told me personally.
You don't say.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm shocked.
That just doesn't jive with everything I know about this team.
I'm shocked that there's gambling in this casino.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, that's sad because you're playing with people's health and getting them healthy again after they give their bodies to this game. That's pretty low. I would love to think that that's not happening anymore. Let's hope.
Right.
Yeah, let's hope because it was not this crew, that player was talking about. So, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie is next on our list.
All right.
New guy, finally, a new guy.
I gave him the honor of being next because he's an established veteran. Two-time Pro Bowler. He was a first-round draft pick in 2008. I mean, DRC...
At one point, one of the best corners in the game, too.
Athletic freaking nature.
Yeah.
He's running a sub-4.3 40. When he was a younger
yeah,
person.
Not anymore. That was 20 or 10 years ago.
He's still fast. And the thing about him, though, is that he retired halfway through last year, walked away from the game, and decided to come back. So I think it's fair to ask...
Where was he last year? Buffalo?
No, he's with Oakland.
Oakland.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's fair to ask where his head's at.
Sure.
Does he really want to play, or is it just that somebody offered him $1 million, and so he decided to come back? I don't know if you can count on him. The rumors were that the Redskins wanted to convert him to safety. We'll see. I mean, it's a risk-free gamble, basically. I mean, that's he's got a 0 dead cap money, so they can just get rid of him if they need to.
Well.
But it's an interesting gamble,
we saw them do this last year with that, I can't remember the guy's name.
Orlando Scandrick.
Thank you, Orlando Scandrick, who they brought in for preseason, and he ended up going to, Dallas afterwards, because we cut him?
Kansas City.
Oh, okay.
Kansas City.
Yeah.
And did fairly well there, by the way. But look, DRC is a much better prospect than Orlando Scandrick ever was.
Sure. But, I mean... There's always a mentality that you at least want one really good veteran corner down on your depth chart somewhere in case someone like Josh Norman's hurt for extended period. Because, DRC might not have the athletic ability he once had, but the mental knowledge of playing the position, you don't have to worry about that part. and that's huge.
Yeah. I agree.
And listen, the fact that he's probably lost a step means he's still really fast.
Right.
Okay.
He could have lost 3 steps and still be fast.
He ran a 4.2940.
Yeah.
At the combine. So we're talking about, even if he's lost a step, he's still probably one of the faster players on the team.
Sure. I'm not questioning that. Yeah.
To me, it's just to me, it's a matter of whether he really wants to play or not, and who knows.
Not just do you want to play, but are you willing to play and be the dime guy for chunks of the season?
Yeah, fair enough. Jamal, opinions on DRC?
I think he's a good, solid backup. He can fill in. He can really play the slot, honestly, too. He could play a lot of positions in the secondary. He could play any position as a corner. I don't really know how he'll fare at safety. I think those are more so rumors than any validity behind it. So I do think it's a good pickup. I prefer him over Scandrick.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
And I don't know about any position too. He might not be a good nose tackle.
Yeah, that might not work. He's another guy who's had his share of ball hawking moments.
Oh yeah.
He had 6 interceptions in 2016 with the Giants. If he plays,
2 of them came in that last game of the year.
Yeah, that's true. Against a team we know. Matter of fact.
Yeah, a team we actually talk about a lot.
Yeah. So, I think we have reason to be hopeful only because it's a no-risk proposition for the Redskins. If he works out, great. He's a solid veteran. If he doesn't, just get rid of him.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's there you go. Greg Stroman next, 7th round draft pick, 2018. Started 3 games last year, believe it or not.
Well, everyone was hurt at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now Stroman did not do well, I didn't think, when he got on the field. He's got a long way to go.
Yeah.
I think his coverage skills are lacking. He was kind of known as he was a big playmaker at Virginia Tech. Was their do-everything guy for sure. Is a very experienced punt returner.
Right. That's why we initially drafted him, I think, is they wanted him as a punt return option.
He had 127 punt returns at Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Did not do well in the punt return role last year at all. He had 8 punt returns for a total of 27 yards. 3.4 yards per return.
Yeah, but he also had about 40 fair catches, too, which is the frustrating thing. I remember at one point I started counting the number of actual returns versus fair catches, and we were like at 10% or something. It was terrible.
Stroman is a young guy. He's going to get better, but I don't think, based on what we saw last year, he's ready to play a significant role on the field as in the defensive backfield. Maybe he can do it on special teams. We'll see.
I'm not going to hold my breath. I don't see anything there that makes me say, wow, there's a reason to keep him on. Like, he's not especially big. Like the next guy who I assume we'll get to is Alexander, who's a huge back, but the speed is okay. I just don't see anything that wows me about Stroman's play.
No, me neither. So,
I agree. I don't have much else to add, to be honest with you. I don't see nothing.
He's a 7th round draft pick. If he adds something to the team, great. Let's go. I think we're doing Danny Johnson a disservice by putting him behind Don.
All right, fine. We can talk about Danny Johnson.
Yeah, the Danny Johnson's wee. He's 5'9".
Yeah.
He's a little bitty guy.
Wee.
He's
nice
wee. He's wee. By NFL standards, he's wee.
Right. Well, he's bigger than some quarterbacks now.
Yeah, that's true. Kyler Murray is maybe smaller because if that dude is 5'10", I'm 6'2".
Right.
Okay? So he's fairly athletic. He ran 4.45 40, 35-inch vertical. Played 14 games last year. Started one. Remember, he was an undrafted free agent. Came out of nowhere to make the team. He's an effort guy, smart guy. I went back and watched his combine film last night. I thought that his combine drills showed kind of a lack of agility and flexibility by NFL corner standards. I thought he had a hard time flipping his hips, and all that stuff may be why he didn't get drafted. But the point is, I think he proved last year that he belongs on the roster through just kind of a sheer force of will.
I don't know. I didn't see as much. I didn't think about even watching any film on him when we were going to talk about corners, to be honest. But, I don't remember him doing as much last year as you seem to. So I'll take your word for it.
Well, I'm not talking about at starter level. I mean, I think he deserves to be on the roster. Let's say it like that.
Okay, I think, to me, we're talking about the guys who are going to be fighting for the 4th and 5th spot, and there's a lot of names there this year. So
yeah, there are. I like Danny Johnson. We can disagree.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Jury's still out on him for me. He was done by November or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think. I don't know what I can really say with much confidence about him. I think he's got some potential.
Yeah, has potential.
Cool.
Jamal, anything to add on Johnson?
Nah, I have nothing. I basically the same thing with Alex. I don't really, I don't necessarily see him. For me, I don't necessarily see him taking like a significant leap. Like this is a depth guy. So, special teams contributor. Spot fill-in, spot duties on defense. Hopefully he can provide some consistency. I'm not necessarily saying he's an inconsistent player, but more so just like when he comes in, there's no massive drop off when he comes in as a cornerback. So hopefully that's the case for him, that he's able to hold his own. But we'll only know actually in training camp and preseason like how well he does.
And by the way, he's an HBCU guy, so it's probably pretty likely that Doug Williams probably found him. He's from Louisiana.
Yeah,
he went to Southern University. This is probably a Doug Williams guy.
Yeah.
Would be my guess. Okay, now we get to Adonis Alexander. 6'3", 207 pounds, supplemental third-round draft pick. Last year, he was the reason why, in case somebody was wondering, he's from Virginia Tech. The reason why he was in the supplemental draft pick was academic-related. He was academically ineligible. So it wasn't conduct-related. It was academics-related. So, that's a who cares in terms of the NFL. So, played in 9 games, started none, 4 tackles. Those were his stats.
Mostly did special teams, I think.
Yeah, he didn't really get much of a run, if any.
Right.
Last year. So I think the jury's completely still out. The rumor amongst the fan base was that they were going to convert him to safety. Jay Gruden shot that down and said no.
It's like the rumor about everybody.
Yeah. If you're not the starter,
just because we have that hole in free safety.
If you're not one of the top 3 guys, you're going to move to safety. That's the.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah.
We might just do that too.
Right.
So I don't know what to say about him. We haven't seen enough to really conclude anything.
Yeah, we have. I just like big corners. Like, I'm a sucker for any corner that's 6'3" or 6'2". That's why I like Dunbar. That's why I like Alexander. I want more guys who, with the amount of nickel that the NFL plays now, I think you need a guy who can start in the slot who's almost like 210, 215, and almost is like a small linebacker at this point playing corner. And, that's what I hope to see.
Alexander's problem is that he's not fast.
No.
By corner standards, he's slow. He's like a 4'6" guy. So if you throw him in the slot against a tiny, speedy slot guy,
yeah, you can't do that.
He may have problems.
You would need him more against if there's a bigger guy in the slot or against a tight end.
Yeah. So Adonis Alexander, there you go.
Yep.
Unless anybody else has anything to say about him.
He's got a good last name.
Nope, not on
I'll say
mine.
that.
He's got a good last name. I'm glad to see you're putting objective criteria. Okay, the last guy here, Jeremy Reeves.
No, that's not the last guy. We didn't cover Jim Moreland.
I'm getting to him.
Oh. Well, you said last guy.
Okay. I'm saving him. The last guy who was on the roster.
Gotcha.
There you go.
Before, okay? Jeremy Reeves, 5'11", 205 pounds. Was active for 2 games. Is from South Alabama, which is in the Sun Belt Conference. Who knows? He's a very back of the roster guy. If they get anything at all out of Jeremy Reeves,
right?
It's a bonus.
Yep.
So I don't know what else to say about him. If anybody has any great words of wisdom about Jeremy Reeves, I'm all for it. Now we get to
have a good camp,
yes.
Jeremy.
There you go. Have a good camp. We wish you the best. Okay, so now we're getting to this year's draft pick, which is Jimmy Moore.
Right.
7th round pick.
Hop on the hype train.
Yes.
Yeah, out of James Madison. I could talk forever about him since I wrote the big piece about him. What does everybody think about Jimmy Moreland?
Well, I saw that he's another one, a guy just like Haskins, where Sean Springs kind of helped guide him along. Which is Sean Springs like doing something like, hey, I'm going to groom these guys, and somehow the Redskins will take them all the time.
He's just mentoring guys. I mean, that's what he should be doing.
I like it.
Ex-player with a family history. Yeah.
I like it a lot, and it's benefited us pretty well now with 2 draft picks this year. So that's great. I love the ball hawk nature of the kid. I mean, he had 18 turnovers in college or something like that.
16 interceptions. Yeah, 18 interceptions, 6 returns for a touchdown.
Yeah, that's insane numbers for a college player. Especially the number of touchdowns he got. So you got to like that.
He had 6 blocked kicks.
I didn't know that.
I'll take that any day. That's sweet. You don't see that.
No, that's cool. So, and, he played at JMU, which, I think everyone who grew up in the Northern Virginia area probably applied to JMU for college at one point because it's that kind of school. So
that's just what you do.
Yeah, it's you just kind of do it. I think 40 kids from my high school class went to JMU when I graduated. So it's that kind of school.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It is.
I'll just back up what Alice is saying. I think that his playmaker potential and his ability to contribute on special teams is an added bonus. For a few reasons, we like special teams is overlooked in a sense by the fan base, but it can contribute a lot. You have we're not talking about linebackers yet, but you have Jimmy Moreland and you have Cole Holcomb, 2 guys who can contribute on special teams, and the being able to make plays and have the possibility of creating instant offense for your offense. It's very important. Or even putting your defense at a better advantage by getting somebody inside the 20. It just helps out a lot, or even forcing a turnover. So with that being said, I think Moreland is a good playmaker, and he has to prove himself in camp because he's going to be going against guys who are not in the deep. Like this is the top of the line competition. Like JMU was not facing FBS, SEC teams or Big Ten teams like consistently, so you didn't really have that top competition for Moreland, and you'll see that in training camp, and you'll see that in the preseason where he stands against better guys and more proven guys.
Yeah. Okay. So Jimmy Moreland, he is a ball hawk, but if you watch his film, which I watched what little there is, I think it's a case of him being kind of a big fish in a small pond.
Sure.
To an extent, a lot of those interceptions are just from absolutely god-awful quarterback decisions. Absolutely god-awful throws from a quarterback. And yes, he put himself in a position to be there to get the ball, and he had the hands to catch the ball. But I think, quite frankly, it was a little bit less of him creating these passes, or creating these turnovers, and more that he was just a beneficiary of just atrocious play that you are not going to see in the NFL. The one game that JMU played over the past 2 seasons, 17 and 18, that was a bigger caliber competition was North Carolina State, which is Ryan Finley and Kelvin Harmon.
Right.
And North Carolina State is not Alabama and Ohio State themselves, okay? In that game, if you watch his film, he didn't do anything special. It wasn't terrible. Kelvin Harmon got the best of him a couple times. Kelvin Harmon, our 6th-round draft pick, got the best of Jimmy a couple times. He didn't really look like a playmaker in that game to me, like he did when they're playing William and Mary, those kind of games. So I think Jimmy, and the other thing about him is, if you need to understand this, he's very thin. He's 180 pounds. He looks like a beanpole. And so that's a problem when it comes to run defense. Even at JMU, he's not the type that's going to be able to wrap up and drive his shoulder through a running back. He's just too small. He couldn't even do that in college. And so I think the pros to Jimmy, he's very flexible. He can flip his hips really easily. He's agile. He has good pattern matching ability. His man-on-man coverage ability is pretty spot on. The negatives are, I don't think we're going to see the playmaking, ball-hawking Jimmy Moreland you saw at JMU. I just don't think he really has the ability to create in the same way. and he's just too small to really ever be an outside corner. So I think his prospects may be limited to the slot just from a physical matchup standpoint. Because, again, I mean, I saw Kelvin Harmon make receptions off him, and that's not Julio Jones.
No, although Harmon, most people say he was drafted way later than projected.
Yeah, for sure. But I think Jimmy's ceiling may be slot corner just because of his physical abilities. And, feel free, everybody, to jump on the Jimmy Moreland hype train. I'm all for it. I just think if we're expecting six pick sixes from him, you may be disappointed.
No. I'll be happy if he gets 2.
Be happy if he gets in.
Sure. Okay, fair enough.
He might not even get on the field.
Yeah, I'm about to say, especially with people in front of him.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's to wrap up the corner position group breakdown here. I mean, we're looking at. Feel free to disagree, guys, but to me, you're looking at Josh Norman, Quentin Dunbar, the starters. Fabian Moreau is going to be the slot guy, and then behind that, it's a free for all. I like Danny Johnson. I thought he played well. They're going to give Greg Stroman a shot. They're going to give Adonis Alexander a shot. But I think those are, to me, the top guys.
Yeah.
Norman, Dunbar, Moreau, and then Danny. I think those are.
It's kind of interesting.
Did you mention Cromartie?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mention Cromartie. I just don't know where to put him in there. Honestly, and if he shows up and he plays and he looks like the DRC of old, yeah, clearly he's going to be the number 4 guy, obviously,
right
behind, ahead of these other young guys for sure.
We have 3 vets, like a third-year guy, some 2 years, some new people. We have a whole range of experience.
Yeah, well, and that's what you want at corner, frankly, because you're going to let some guys go next year, probably. Norman, we won't let him go this year, but maybe next year, and you need to be ready for Dunbar and Moreau to step up, and they'll be the next ones. That's how corner works. But
with any luck.
By the way, they cut Josh Holsey this week. If anybody was wondering why we didn't mention him, he's not a Redskin anymore.
I was surprised by that actually, because he played well at times.
There's 9 on the roster right now. Alexander, Dunbar, Johnson, Moreau, Moreland, Norman, Reeves, DRC, and Stroman. So they're probably going to keep 6.
I thought I saw another guy named Harris on there on the Redskins roster page.
Some of these guys are listed safety.
Yeah.
But they're probably going to keep 6 of those, and so the locks: Norman, Dunbar, Moreau.
And let's say DRC, just if he plays.
I don't think he's a lock. That's my opinion. So you got to figure 2 out of if you include. I don't include him. So to me, you got 3 out of that next group of guys.
Okay.
That they're going to keep, and they're going to be gone. You may have a different opinion.
Yeah, I think if DRC is healthy and wants to play, he'll probably be one of those. And my gut tells me you spend a draft pick on Moreland, he's going to stay for the year, or he won't be. He might be deactivated each week, but usually they like to keep the rookies.
See at least what you got.
Yeah, and I'm partial to Alexander, but it could be Stroman, it could be Johnson. Who knows? That's what camp's going to really show us.
Yeah, agreed.
Alexander's a 3rd-round pick, so he's going to get his opportunity.
I thought it was a 6th-round pick.
Alexander's a supplemental 3rd-round.
Oh, okay.
All right. Any closing thoughts then? Other than that, looks like I think we kind of covered it. But anyone want to throw anything else up?
No, I'm sorry. I'm stupid. Yeah, Alexander was a supplemental 6th-round pick. You're right.
Wow.
I was thinking 3rd because I think in my head I thought he was going to be a 3rd-round pick. Sorry
he was projected to be a 3rd-rounder next year. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wrong. Alex is right. 6th-round.
Well, we didn't really mention that Josh Norman trash talking the Giants at all, but.
I love that line. It's a good line.
Yeah.
We should have talked about that, actually.
He said that, for those of you who don't know, he said that the Redskins should put Dave Gettleman on the payroll.
Right.
Yeah, which is just awesome.
Right, because...
That's a good point.
You just need to win games. Win some football games. They lost 40 to 16.
He's a Norman. Norman loves to trash talk.
Jamal's just shooting that down. I like that, Jamal.
Yeah, I had an issue with it, but we ain't got to go too deep in that. He just needs to worry about his own team, because we were 7-9 last year, the last 2 years. So.
Jamal, are you calling it a red flag that he's trash talking the GM?
Is there a character?
Yes.
Is there a character?
It's
concern?
It's a red flag that he's very distracted by the purpose and the goal of the actual Redskins, which is to win games. I talk about other GMs. I know he hates him for his time in Carolina, but still, shut up.
Fair take. All right, cool. Well, let's cut it there then. That was the cornerbacks. We got plenty more position groups coming at you because, my goodness, plenty of positions that are question marks still. So we'll keep rocking with that. Y'all have fantastic weeks and weekends, and we'll see y'all back here on the next episode next time. Take care. Cut.